She looked at me, and with a quiet smile, said the words that changed everything: "You're not a boy anymore." The story opens on a quiet, slightly overcast afternoon at a small, cozy cafe tucked into a tree-lined street. The young man, 25, steps inside, brushing the chill off his jacket. There's a familiar warmth to the air, the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee, the soft murmur of quiet conversations, the gentle clink of cups and spoons. He's here partly out of habit, partly out of curiosity. He hasn't seen her in months. She, 42, is seated near the window, a book open in front of her, sunlight catching strands of chestnut hair that fall softly around her face. She's always carried herself with a quiet elegance, confident, graceful, and calm, yet there's a softness in her eyes that hints at vulnerability. Their eyes meet across the room, and for a moment, it's as if time stretches. He feels the familiar tug of recognition, the mix of comfort and curiosity. She gives a small, warm smile, one that has always had the power to make him feel both seen and slightly exposed. It's subtle, not flirtatious, yet it carries a weight that he hasn't quite acknowledged until now. When he approaches, there's an ease in their greeting, words like, "It's been a while," and "How have you been?" flow naturally, layered with unspoken history. He notices the way she adjusts her sleeve, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, her fingers lingering momentarily on her neck. Something about that tiny gesture makes his chest tighten with an unfamiliar awareness. He's aware, for the first time, of her presence in a way that mixes respect with something more tender. As he sits, she reaches out to accept the coffee he hands her. Their fingers graze, lingering slightly longer than necessary, a spark of connection that neither of them comments on aloud. He feels the warmth of her hand against his, smooth and reassuring, yet it sends a ripple through him that he struggles to define. She shifts slightly, offering a small smile, and he realizes he's noticing the way sunlight falls on her profile, the subtle curve of her lips when she thinks, the quiet steadiness of her heartbeat as she listens. Their conversation is easy, flowing from small anecdotes about work to shared memories of earlier days when he was more of a boy in her eyes. He finds himself reflecting inwardly. He's grown, changed, become more deliberate, more aware, but does she see it too? The thought lingers, an unspoken question hovering between them. This first encounter sets the emotional stage for the story, familiarity mixed with subtle tension, comfort infused with a quiet recognition that something has shifted. The audience should feel the slow, deliberate noticing, the way a simple brush of fingers or the tilt of a smile can carry meaning beyond words. This part emphasizes internal reflection, planting the seed for a deeper emotional journey. The young man is beginning to see her not just as a mentor or older friend, but as a woman whose presence elicits both admiration and longing. The woman, in turn, acknowledges his maturity with a warmth that hints at the complexity of the relationship to come. By the end of this scene, the audience should sense the first stirrings of something unspoken, a mutual recognition of growth, of presence, of the possibility that their connection may be evolving. The quiet tension is subtle, safe, and emotionally rich, the perfect opening for a slow-burn romance. The scene moves to a quiet, sunlit bookstore nestled on a side street, a space filled with the comforting scent of paper and the faint musk of aged books. The young man, now more self-aware of his growth, walks in, brushing a hand over his hair, slightly nervous but eager. He spots her already browsing a shelf of poetry. She seems perfectly at ease, as though the world has slowed just enough to let her inhabit this small corner of it. Her posture is relaxed, but there's a subtle elegance in the tilt of her head, the gentle curve of her shoulders. When she notices him, her lips curve into that familiar, knowing smile. There's a hint of amusement in her eyes, a sparkle that suggests she sees something new in him, something beyond the boy she once knew. "You're taking your literary tastes seriously now," she teases, her voice warm and melodic, carrying just enough playful judgment to make him self-conscious. As he reaches the shelf beside her, their hands brush while picking up the same book. The touch is fleeting, almost accidental, yet it ignites a quiet awareness in him. The warmth of her fingers, the soft pressure against his palm, lingers in memory even after they part. His pulse quickens slightly, not out of embarrassment but from a deeper recognition. This is not just friendship anymore. He notices the subtle sway of her stance as she shifts to reach another book, the way her hair falls across her cheek, and the small, graceful gestures that make her magnetic without even trying. They wander together down aisles, moving closer than necessary to reach for books. Their shoulders occasionally brush, sending fleeting warmth along his arm. When she laughs at a clever passage, he observes the way her eyes light up, the tiny crinkles at the corners softening her composed demeanor. There's a gentle tension in the air, a delicate push and pull. He is aware of her beauty, her poise, and the quiet confidence that has always drawn him, now magnified by his own growing understanding of himself. The conversation is effortless yet layered. They share opinions about the authors, but beneath the discussion of stories and verses is an unspoken examination of one another. He notices her attentiveness, the way she tilts her head slightly when listening, letting her gaze linger. He wonders if she sees him differently too, now that he has stepped fully into the man he is becoming. This part of the story deepens the emotional tension, showing how ordinary moments, a shared laugh, a casual touch, a look that lingers, can carry weight in a slow-burn romance. It emphasizes that attraction is as much about perception and awareness as it is about action. The audience should feel the subtle evolution. The young man is beginning to experience desire tempered by respect, admiration tempered by hesitation. She is perceptive, noticing the shift in him, teasing it gently without crossing boundaries. By the end of this scene, the bond between them has strengthened through shared space, laughter, and small, intimate touches. The subtle shift is clear. The story is moving from comfort and familiarity to the quiet acknowledgement of romantic tension. Their connection feels safe, human, and emotionally charged, setting the stage for the deeper, more intimate moments to come. The evening air is cool and fragrant with early autumn, carrying the distant hum of the city and the faint rustle of leaves along the park path. The young man walks beside her, hands in his pockets, feeling the gentle tug of anticipation. There's a rhythm to their steps, a quiet synchrony that comes from years of familiarity, yet tonight feels different, charged with something unspoken. He is aware of her presence in a new way, the sway of her hair in the breeze, the curve of her shoulders under her coat, and the warmth radiating from her side as they walk closer than usual. Their conversation begins casually, brushing over everyday topics, the park's changing colors, the crispness of the evening, but gradually shifts into more personal territory. He finds himself opening up about his recent fears and ambitions, the pressure of work, the uncertainty of his choices, the quiet longing for connection. Her listening is steady and undistracted, a presence so warm it draws him out without effort. He notices the slight tilt of her head, the way her eyes soften when he talks about his insecurities. There's no judgment, only attentive care, and it touches him more deeply than he expects. Then, as if sensing the moment's significance, she pauses and looks at him fully, her gaze steady and unwavering. "You're not a boy anymore," she says softly, almost like a statement of fact rather than a compliment. The words hang in the air, a quiet recognition that pierces through his defenses. He feels a rush of conflicting emotions, pride, embarrassment, longing, and a delicate thrill of desire. For the first time, he realizes that she sees him not only as the young man she once knew but as someone capable of standing beside her as an equal, a man in both presence and essence. The emotional weight of the moment is heightened by small, intimate gestures. As she speaks, her hand brushes against his arm, gentle and reassuring. The touch is fleeting, yet the warmth spreads through him, grounding him while also igniting a subtle, unspoken tension. He notices the faint scent of her perfume mingling with the crisp air, a delicate reminder of her proximity. For a heartbeat, they walk in silence, allowing the moment to sink in, each step reinforcing the shift in their dynamic. This is a turning point in the story, the subtle acknowledgement of growth, both emotional and physical. The audience should feel the quiet intensity, the way a single sentence, a small touch, and sustained eye contact can transform years of familiarity into a charged awareness of potential romance. By the end of the scene, the young man is left with a heightened sense of self and the undeniable realization that his feelings for her are evolving. The emotional intimacy deepens, tension lingers without overt action, and the stage is set for the slow-burning exploration of connection, attraction, and vulnerability. The story now pivots from recognition to subtle longing, laying the foundation for the deeper closeness and tentative touches that will follow. The scene shifts to a quiet afternoon at her apartment, a space that reflects her personality, warm, tasteful, and comfortable, with soft lighting, stacks of books, and the faint scent of vanilla and old paper lingering in the air. The young man steps inside, carrying a small gift, something thoughtful, though understated. He feels a flutter of anticipation mixed with nervousness. There's a gentle hum in the apartment, the soft ticking of a clock, the low hum of a heater, and the quiet reassurance of familiarity. They settle onto her sofa, positioned close enough that their knees brush lightly. The space between them is intimate, yet not invasive, a delicate balance that speaks to their growing awareness of each other. Their conversation begins lightly, revolving around anecdotes from their week, but it carries a new undercurrent of attentiveness. Every laugh, every glance, feels charged with subtle meaning. She adjusts a throw pillow beside her, and as she moves, her hand brushes against his knee. The contact is accidental, or so it seems, but the warmth lingers in a way that catches him off guard. He notices the softness of her skin, the slight tremor of touch that speaks to vulnerability and trust. He shifts slightly, not wanting to break the moment, aware of the quiet electricity between them. Her eyes meet his, and for a second, the world outside the apartment feels suspended. As the conversation deepens, they share memories and reflections, moving seamlessly between humor, introspection, and quiet confessions. He begins to recognize the layers of her personality, the quiet strength, the tender vulnerability, the grace in her gestures. Every movement she makes feels deliberate yet effortless. The way she tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, the soft rise and fall of her chest as she laughs, the gentle tilt of her head when she listens intently. He becomes acutely aware of the subtle intimacy developing in these small, safe moments. The occasional brush of her hand against his forearm, the proximity of their shoulders, and the shared warmth of a soft throw create a cocoon of quiet tension. There's no rush, no overt desire, just a recognition of mutual attraction tempered by respect and caution. This part of the story emphasizes the slow burn nature of their connection. The audience should feel the delicious push and pull, the magnetic pull of closeness, the hesitation born from the age gap and social expectations, and the emotional vulnerability that makes every touch meaningful. It's a moment that bridges the gap between recognition and desire, showing that intimacy is as much about presence and awareness as it is about physical contact. By the end of this scene, the young man is left with a heightened awareness of her as a woman and a companion. He understands that attraction is not only about longing but also about trust, shared moments, and subtle gestures. The story is now firmly moving toward the tension peak, where unspoken desire and emotional connection will collide in a charged, yet safe, encounter. The story moves to a small, elegant gathering at a mutual friend's apartment, filled with soft laughter, clinking glasses, and the gentle glow of ambient lighting. The young man, now fully aware of the emotional pull he feels toward her, navigates the room with a quiet attention. His eyes keep finding her amid the crowd, and each time he does, a flutter of awareness runs through him. She is radiant, confident, graceful, and magnetic in a way that commands attention without demanding it. He notices the sway of her hair as she turns to greet someone, the smooth curve of her neck highlighted by the soft overhead light, and the effortless ease of her gestures. Throughout the evening, subtle emotions ebb and flow. He feels an ache of admiration mingled with a hint of possessive longing as she interacts with others, laughing and conversing with a natural warmth that seems to draw everyone in. The age gap, which had always felt abstract, now adds weight to his hesitation, the knowledge that he is drawn to her, yet must navigate the boundaries of respect and propriety. Finally, they step onto the balcony together, escaping the chatter and creating a pocket of quiet intimacy. The night air is cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of the city below. She leans lightly against the railing, the soft fabric of her coat brushing his arm. Their shoulders touch almost accidentally, but the proximity sends a ripple through him, a mix of excitement and nervousness. The city lights shimmer below, mirroring the tension that now hums between them. Words become secondary. They talk, but their conversation is lighter, almost a dance around the unspoken feelings. His hand hovers near hers, close enough to sense the warmth of her skin but stopping just short, respecting the delicate balance of comfort and longing. Every glance, every pause in speech, carries weight, a slow intake of breath, a flicker of the eyes, a subtle shift closer. The audience should feel the electricity in these moments, the way tension can build without overt action, sustained by awareness and emotional resonance. She turns slightly to face him, and he catches the subtle softness in her expression, a mix of curiosity, acknowledgement, and restrained desire. Her hand brushes against his lightly as she adjusts her coat, and the contact, though fleeting, lingers in memory. He is acutely aware of the closeness, of the scent of her perfume mingling with the cool night air, of the quiet sound of her breathing near him. These sensory details heighten the tension without breaking the slow burn rhythm. This scene represents the emotional and romantic apex of the story. The audience should feel the full weight of attraction, hesitation, and longing, the delicate dance of desire restrained by respect, social perception, and the weight of the age gap. It is the moment where internal struggles, unspoken feelings, and physical awareness converge, preparing the story for the eventual resolution. By the end of this scene, the young man is left acutely aware of his deepening emotions, and she subtly acknowledges the shift in their relationship. The tension is palpable, charged, yet controlled, a perfect setup for the warm, tender realization and mutual acceptance that will follow in the next keynotes. The morning after the gathering, the young man finds himself walking toward her apartment again, this time under soft sunlight that filters through autumn-tinted trees. The city feels quieter than usual, almost as if it is giving them space to exist in their own world. He carries with him a quiet nervousness, tempered by the intimacy of the previous evening. There is no urgency in their connection yet, only the comfort of shared presence and the anticipation of what unspoken feelings might emerge. Inside her apartment, the familiar warmth greets him, the scent of vanilla, the subtle fragrance of her perfume lingering in the air, and the gentle hum of quiet music playing in the background. She is arranging breakfast on the small kitchen counter, her movements graceful and effortless. She pours coffee with deliberate care, the way the light catches her profile making her seem almost ethereal. He notices the way she pauses, smoothing a crease in his sleeve as if instinctively caring for him, and the small gesture sends a warmth coursing through his chest. Their conversation is soft and easy, peppered with shared laughter, memories, and quiet reflections. Yet beneath the lightheartedness, there is a subtle tension, a recognition of something deeper than either has yet fully voiced. His awareness of her grows with every glance and every small touch. When she hands him a plate, their fingers brush gently. The contact is slight, but the warmth of her skin lingers, drawing his attention to the quiet intimacy of the moment. He watches her as she sits across from him, her eyes softening when she smiles at a small joke he makes. There is a gentleness in her gaze that makes him feel seen and understood in a way he has never experienced before. For a moment the past, the boy she once knew, and the present, the man he has become, merge in silent acknowledgement. He feels a comforting weight in her presence, a sense of belonging and acceptance that goes beyond words. This part of the story is about the subtle, everyday ways intimacy builds. The audience should feel the emotional resonance in these gestures, the brush of her hand, the shared laughter, the steady gaze that communicates volumes without needing to speak. It emphasizes that connection is not always dramatic or overt, it is found in attentiveness, care, and the gentle weaving of lives together. By the end of the scene, both characters sense the shift in their relationship. There is mutual acknowledgement of attraction and emotional closeness, tempered by respect and patience. The young man feels a sense of warmth and fulfillment, understanding that the slow burn journey they are on is as much about trust and comfort as it is about desire. The story moves gently toward resolution, with both of them poised to explore this emotional connection more fully, knowing that their bond is built on understanding, care, and a deep, shared history. This keynote sets the stage for the final part, the emotional resolution, where their connection solidifies through tender gestures, mutual acknowledgement, and safe, YouTube-friendly intimacy. The story reaches its gentle climax on a quiet evening, as the young man walks beside her through the same park where she had first told him, "You're not a boy anymore." The late summer air carries the scent of earth and fallen leaves, a soft breeze brushing their faces and adding a natural intimacy to their shared silence. There's an unspoken understanding between them now, a mutual acknowledgement of the tension, longing, and emotional growth that has quietly unfolded over weeks of shared moments. They stroll slowly, side by side, aware of each other's presence with a kind of ease that feels both new and familiar. His hand brushes against hers almost accidentally, and neither pulls away. Instead, they linger, fingertips grazing, the warmth of her skin grounding him while igniting a quiet thrill. For the first time, their connection feels fully mutual, a bond built not just on admiration or affection, but on trust, recognition, and deep emotional intimacy. She looks at him, her eyes reflecting the soft amber glow of streetlights, and tilts her head slightly, letting her gaze linger. He senses her awareness of the shift, the subtle acknowledgement of his growth, both as a man and as someone she respects and desires in a tender, human way. Their shoulders brush as they turn a corner, and he notices the faint weight of her presence beside him, grounding and comforting. The small gestures, the brush of hair from her cheek, the way she slightly adjusts to fall closer to his side, speak louder than any words could. Finally, she reaches for his hand deliberately, guiding it to rest gently in hers. The touch is deliberate but tender, a silent declaration of trust and closeness. The warmth spreads through his hand, up his arm, and into his chest, carrying the affirmation of a bond that has been growing subtly but steadily. The simplicity of holding hands, the lingering connection of skin against skin, conveys everything that neither had needed to say aloud: attraction, admiration, respect, and emotional commitment. They walk in silence for a moment, letting the night and the intimacy of shared space carry their emotions. Each glance is a conversation, each small movement, a confirmation of trust and desire. He notices her soft exhale against his arm, the gentle sway of her coat as she walks, the quiet steadiness of her heartbeat that seems to align with his own. For the first time, the slow burn romance feels complete in its emotional depth. The anticipation, hesitation, and longing have resolved into quiet, meaningful closeness. By the end of the scene, the audience should feel the warmth and satisfaction of a story well told. The emotional arc has completed, tension has peaked, desires have been acknowledged, and intimacy has been realized in a gentle, YouTube-safe manner. The story closes with a sense of fulfillment, leaving viewers with the impression of two people who have grown individually and together, who have learned patience, respect, and the power of subtle gestures. The age gap is no longer a barrier but a testament to understanding and shared emotional maturity. The final image lingers, their hands intertwined, bodies close but unhurried, eyes meeting with quiet affection, as the night embraces them, a perfect conclusion to a slow burn romance that celebrates emotional intimacy, subtle desire, and deep human connection.